Thank you for that. Indeed, I'm Michelle Dewberry with you till 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, the Conservative life peer in the House of Lords, Daniel Moylan, and the co-founder of Novara Media, Aaron Bastani. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
You know the drill, don't you, on this programme? It is not just about us three. It's very much about you guys at home. What is on your mind tonight? There's a lot I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about these poppies. Do you think the symbol is still as appreciated, as respected as it once was, as perhaps many would argue it still should be? What's going on? Why do we need MPs to urge people to wear them with pride and not to be afraid? Also, Suella Braverman in trouble again.
I mean, we don't need them to do that. People do that already. But MPs are very likely or very insistent to be able to prove just how poppyish they are, because they know they can turn it into a culture war, despite none of the evidence showing that there's been any amount of pushback on the poppy appeal from anyone who's pro-Palestinian, right? We read this Daily Mail article the other day where the only instances they could find was one instance where there was someone being accosted by an Irish person, given what we know about how Irish people don't like the poppy appeal. That is something that happens every year. And there was one report of another Irish person allegedly attacking a poppy appeal seller, except the police found no evidence after reviewing all of the CCTV and isn't going any further with the investigation. So there's been no evidence that anybody's shown that there's been any kind of pushback to the poppy appeal. There's been any particular thing about right now that's shown some like massive drop in people actually wearing poppies or anything like that. It's just a bunch of scaremongering, and the Conservative MPs are very happy to jump on the back of that and use it as an opportunity to do massive virtue signals. Now, I do hate to bring up the poppy discourse yet again, but I think it's worth going over, right? Obviously we discussed the left's approach to the poppy appeal on the last bit, but I think it's worth bringing up the things that we see like this, right? This is 6 different Conservative MPs, and you can see Jonathan Gullis on the right here as well in this thread, posing for photo ops with their poppy appeal things, right? Now, I don't know about you, chat. I don't know about you, but my granddad, who was in the RAF during the Second World War, I don't think he thinks that the sacrifice of his compatriots was something to be used as a political photo opportunity for a bunch of people who want to weaponize it in a culture war to try and get the freedoms that they fought for cancelled, right? The fact that they aren't treating this with the gravitas that it deserves, and instead of using it as a moment of reflection, right? As a serious moment that we can discuss how we get peace, right? Why the sacrifice of war is so grave. Instead, they are flippantly abusing the poppy appeal as a way of virtue signalling and using it as a political campaign, right? I don't think anything could possibly undermine the poppy appeal more than deliberately using it in this way. Because this isn't about reflection anymore. This isn't about the sacrifice of the war dead. This isn't about all of the things that led up to and between the 2 world wars. It's none of those things. It's none of those things. If you're smiling for a camera with your poppy appeal things, how much different are you from Dan Wootton having his multiple takes to put down his little commemorative thing for the death of Queen Elizabeth II, right? His moment of reflection, caught on camera for everybody to see. Nothing else to me, nothing else disrespects the war dead more than using them as a political photo opportunity, than completely disregarding the nature of the occasion to virtue signal about just how poppyish you are. It's despicable, quite frankly. Now, I know these are all Tory MPs doing it, but I'm sure MPs of other parties have as well, right? It's not just having a photo opportunity with somebody from the Royal British Legion or just saying, look, I'm wearing my poppy. Like, there was a video that we put on last time of Lee Anderson saying, I'm proud to wear my poppy, I don't know who knows it, right? It was a little bit cringe, and there was implication that there were some people there who hated you wearing a poppy at all, right? But literally, these are all poses that they've done in the same thing. Look at this poppy appeal thing that I'm doing. This incredibly set up, this pre-planned virtue signal that they're doing is even worse in my regard, because it's turning something that should be a collective moment of reflection and turning it into this political posturing this competition, right, to see who can be the most reflective on Remembrance Weekend. It's so hypocritical. And they say that we disrespect the poppy by maybe drawing some kind of criticism over the jingoistic nature of the Remembrance Weekend, over the way in which that we have moved away from this reflection upon the sacrifice of the freedoms that were awarded to us by the sacrifices that were made of by our forefathers rather, and the forefathers of other countries as well. And then we criticize the militaristic nature of what's happened that undermines the original intent behind what those ceremonies are supposed to signify, and the way in which that it has indeed, when you look at the displays and things, become about the spectacle. It's become about who can be the most pro-poppy rather than as a collective moment, and in fact using it, deliberately weaponizing it as for a culture war, rather than just saying, putting out your piece of Remembrance Weekend media thing, right? Saying, I'm happy to be here supporting Remembrance Sunday, right? Please, they all linked to the Royal British Legion or whatever. But instead, having a little photo opportunity, these are all choreographed as well, between the 6 of them. There must have been like an internal memo at the Conservative Party, right? We know it's going to be politically efficacious for us to create a poppy culture war to try and win over swing voters. It's so completely disingenuous. It's political opportunism at the expense of what should be an incredibly important day for our country and countries across the Commonwealth. Because obviously the Commonwealth helped fight in the Second World War, and lots of countries in the Commonwealth also recognise this day. Yet to change the meaning of it to be a competition for political point scoring, it's beyond the pale. It's absolutely beyond the pale. And they have the nerve to criticise us for having legitimate grievances with the kind of rhetoric that gets employed around something like Remembrance Sunday, like Armistice Day. I don't know any leftist at all who thinks that somehow the sacrifice of the first 2 world wars, of both the Allies and the Allied powers from either of those wars, is somehow not a good thing because of what's changed about the poppy appeal, when really and truly we have our own moral principles about war and conflict and militarism, and that's where our position comes from. It's nothing to do with dishonouring the war dead. It's nothing to do with the heritage and the history of the UK. It's nothing to do with that. And after making up a bunch of stuff what we believe, they then have disregarded any actual meaning and have decided to turn it into a culture war. And honestly, it's beyond the pale. I know I've been rattling over the points, but I just want to be incredibly detailed in just how frustrating it is to me for something that, as I mentioned before on stream, I think should be an important moment, and these people do nothing to further that cause.